Uh, as you know, the Iraqi forces and the Iraqi people celebrated the 1 year anniversary on defeating Daesh and the victory against Daesh. Uh, as we know, the coalition forces have a great role on helping the Iraqi security forces on defeating Daesh. So, what's the role of the coalition forces to support the Iraqi security forces on their war and their fight against Daesh?
It's the coalition's privilege to help the Iraqi security forces defeat Daesh in major offensive ground operations. And the coalition has been in an advise and assist role. The Iraqi security forces, to include the Peshmerga, the CTS, the FedPol, PMF, all of them played a major role in stabilizing and securing Iraq for the citizens of Iraq.
As a coalition forces, there was a great role for the airstrikes on specific targets from Daesh and their organization. Can you give us an idea on how many airstrikes and what's the specific role on the airstrikes and the Air Force from the coalition forces to defeat Daesh and striking their safe haven areas around all over the country?
The coalition worked with the Iraqi security forces and provided overhead cover and also intelligence, probably 30,000 airstrikes to target Daesh operatives, either in financiering, the fighters, logistics, supplies. So we went after all those aspects to completely destroy Daesh and rid them from Iraq.
The Iraqi media have a great role on the document the Iraqi security forces and all the preparing on securing the borders between Iraq and Syria. Is the coalition forces have any doubts or any fear of the security around the Iraqi-Syrian borders at this time?
Well, first, we're very happy to work with General Tassin and the media operations, and they've come a long way in 4 years, and now they have the right equipment so they can capture all the great and heroic stories of the Iraqi security forces. Right now, the Iraqi security forces are doing a very good job securing the borders and not allowing Daesh to come into Iraq, and that is the whole part of the coalition as well, is to provide overhead and artillery strikes, so if we see Daesh trying to get into Iraq, we will destroy them.
That's including the Iraqi security forces, but for the coalition forces and specifically for the French artillery, we've been told that the coalition forces and the French artillery, they actually have a lot of artillery strike or shots towards Daesh and their organization since Vietnam War.
Correct. The coalition, including the French, have been striking at Daesh targets in the Makmur Mountains, in other areas where we see pockets of them trying to hide. So we're going in there and we're destroying the tunnels and the systems that they have in place where they're trying to hide. That way they cannot come and ever bother the Iraqi people again, and to keep Iraq safe.
As we celebrate the victory against Daesh, as you know, the Iraqi security forces right now to reaffirming their ranks and establishing after the victory all the recommendations or all the security forces working on establishing their strength and going back to be the strongest to defeat Daesh and any other threats towards the country. What's the role of the coalition forces on logistics and any support that they can support with advisory and logistics support to maintain the strength of the Iraqi security forces?
Well, the coalition is here at the invitation of the government of Iraq, and we hope that that continues because we believe we can continue to provide training, logistical support. We have 5 different training sites where we train Iraqi security forces in all facets of artillery strikes and how to combat Daesh, and that way it's the enduring defeat of ISIS. We don't want ISIS to ever come back into Iraq.
What was the role of the coalition forces on the intel information and given the information between them and the Iraqi security forces, and not forgetting that the U.S. forces have the capability and equipment to maintain those intelligence information and pass it down to the Iraqi security forces.
We've had a very strong relationship with the Iraqi Intelligence Division, and the coalition shares a lot of intelligence with them through CTS and other groups out, Secure, things of that nature. When we see high-value target Daesh fighters, we work together to go after those targets. So it's a very good relationship, and we always enjoy sharing that information so the Iraqi forces can go get these bad people that are trying to make trouble in Iraq.
After the victory against Daesh and the Iraqi security forces and ground forces, they secured the country and they took over and they have the overall control of the country. We are not considering inside threat more than at the same time we consider the outside threat towards the country. With the coalition forces and their presence on supporting the Iraqi security forces, what's their role on maintaining and training the Iraqi security forces on maintaining the borders, and what's the role of the coalition forces to maintain security from outside threats?
Well, security for Iraq is very important because we don't want to make all these gains that we have in the last 4 years and let Daesh return. So having the coalition stay in Iraq at the invitation of the government of Iraq will help coordinate security and training so that Iraqi forces can fully support all the different cities that need help with security. That way Daesh cannot ever return.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.